Welcome back, everyone, as we look tonight at the immune system. The human body was designed to heal itself, and it'll heal itself if you give it the right conditions. And unfortunately, many people don't give it those conditions. And that's why in Romans 12, chapter 1 and 2, the Bible says, "I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies living sacrifices, holy and acceptable to God." It's such a reasonable service, but don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. And in 1 Corinthians 3, verse 16 and 17, the Bible says, "Know you not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? And if any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are." Unfortunately, many people don't realise they're defiling the temple of God, because many people don't realise that their body is the temple of God. And this is defined a little bit further over in 1 Corinthians 6:19, where again the writer says, "What? Know you not that your body is the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? For ye are bought with a price." And we know that price is the precious blood of Christ. "Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's." So when you look at this verse, that tells us we actually have no right not to look after this body. And if we don't look after the body, who suffers? We do. And in Psalm 119, I think it's around the verse 68 or 69, it says, "Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I have kept thy word." And then if you go up to 70, I think it's verse 72, it says, "It is good for me that I have been afflicted, that I might keep thy statutes." And isn't that true? Many people don't realise how important it is to give the body the right conditions until the body starts to break down. Then they're confronted with, oops. Unfortunately, many people don't realise this till too late, because the body is so amazing in that it's continually adapting and adjusting. And also, when we have little scrapes and bumps, the body heals quite quickly. Some people say, yes, but as you get older, it doesn't heal as quickly. Do you know, it's often because the person has done the wrong things to their body for so many years. Eventually, the body doesn't work. And then when the person gets sick, they usually say, "My immune system must be down." But what they don't realise is, it's because their immune system is working well that they're getting sick. Now, this is a concept most people don't realise. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have a look at our immune system tonight, because that word immune system is thrown around so much, but I don't think most people know what their immune system is. So our body has been designed with a whole lot of networks in place to protect us. So the first protection is the skin. Do you know the skin is quite a mighty armour, and the skin protects us. It protects our blood from any pathogens or harmful things that may be in the air. And the skin has three main functions. One is that the skin breathes. That's why be very careful what you touch. Be very careful what you put on your skin, because you can inhibit the breathing process of your skin. There's the very sad story of a little girl who was painted gold for a play and she died. You see, you can't cover the whole skin. It must breathe. So the skin breathes. The skin also throws off waste. That's why at the end of the day, when we've worn a white shirt, the collar can be a little brown, can't it? We're throwing off waste. But the skin also absorbs. It absorbs things. That's why if you've got a mouldy orange in your plate of fruit, don't pick it up with your fingers, because you'll absorb the mould. You have to pick it up with a pair of tongs. and put it in a bag or, or something like that. So what an amazing piece of machinery and covering is this skin. When I worked in the operating theatre, we did an operation one day where we took the tattoos off this girl, and the tattoos went right through to the flesh. So the surgeon had to pick up a bit of skin, cut it, pick up a bit more, right down to the flesh to get the whole tattoo off. Now there's raw flesh. And so then the surgeon cut a piece of skin off her thigh and just the top layer, because there are 3 layers, you know. And then we put it through a machine, and this made it look like fishnet stocking. So this piece of skin that was this big, once you put it through there, you can stretch it out to this big. Now this girl will ever have a pattern on her skin of like a fishnet stocking type pattern. But what an amazing piece of machinery. So the skin is basically our front line defense of our immune system. But let's have a look at the skin. There are some holes in the skin. Let's go to the head. You've got your ear. Now your ear's got lots of little hairs in there, and those hairs can trap things if anything goes in. And you've got your eardrum. So your eardrum also protects your ear from anything going in there. Let's go to the eye. If you have a look at the eye, if something were to come close and hit, it would hit the bone there, which protects the eyes. And then you've got the eyelashes. If anything comes close, we immediately blink, don't we? And that blinking process is to protect anything going in the eye. And then you've got your lashes, which also protect. But sometimes a bug might get in, is that right? And when it gets into the eye, then you've got that mucus layer over the eye, and that really suffocates the bug or whatever's going in there. And I think we all know if we make our eye go round and round and round, it'll eventually go to the corner and we can usually flick it out. So the eye has protections there. Also the nose. Now we should be breathing in through our nose because our nose is designed to purify the air. In the nose there's lots of little hairs, and the inside of the nose has got all these little caves, so to speak. It's an amazing structure. So if we breathe in air that has any dirt on it, it'll be a little heavy. If we breathe in air, it'll go straight back to our trachea and down into our lungs. But if there's anything on that air, it makes it a little bit heavier, so it drops and it starts ricocheting all around these little cavities inside the nose, and it keeps shooting around until it drops off that little bit of dirt, and then it becomes light and it can go down into the trachea, down into your lungs. That's why we should be nose breathers, because there's no hairs in our mouth. Is that right? Some people can't breathe through their nose because of built-up mucus, and the built-up mucus is usually a result of an intolerance to wheat and dairy, because of an allergy to it, then you've got all this mucus building up in that area, and we've talked about that a couple of times this week. And now we come to the mouth. So in the mouth there's a lot of mucus, and that can trap things. But let's say something goes in and we swallow it down to our stomach. Down in the stomach is one of the most powerful weapons that we have. It's called hydrochloric acid. Now we looked at that briefly last night. Hydrochloric acid has got a very high pH. It's incredibly acidic. And God designed that hydrochloric acid not only connect with your pepsinogen to release pepsin, to break down your protein, but also to kill off any bacteria or yeast or fungus that may be in the stomach. Last night we had a look at how if you're drinking with your meals, if you're eating every couple of hours, if you're stressed out when you eat, if you eat a huge meal within an hour before going to bed, all of those things can reduce your hydrochloric acid. And as we also looked at last night, we've got another defense, which is when you get down to your small intestine, there's the coating, the thick turf wall of your Lactobacillus acidophilus, and that also plays a protective role. So you see, God put a whole lot of things in place to protect our blood from any harmful pathogens. But let's just say the hydrochloric acid is low, and let's just say the lining of the gut is short in those your bacterias, then it can get into the blood. So let me show you something that happens here. Here is the villi. We looked at this last night. We also looked at how you've got a capillary blood network here. And we also looked at the fact that there's a thick turf wall. And that thick turf wall is made up of Lactobacillus acidophilus bifidus bacterium. So let's just say the person's been on antibiotics. And if the person's been on antibiotics, the antibiotics kill off the good and the bad bacteria. And let's say the person's on the statin drugs. That can also kill off the good bacteria. Let's say that they're on cortisone. Did we mention that? Contraceptive pill can do it. Also, if they're regularly taking the painkiller drugs. So what's happening now is that not only have we lost our ability to properly break down our food, but we've also lost the ability to absorb our food. But what we're looking at particularly right now is the protection. Yeah, I think I've lost voice, yeah? So it's the protection one we're looking at, but I also, in this illustration, want to have a look at the nourishment. Now, do you remember we talked about how the new cells are made down here, and they travel up, and every 3 to 5 days they're gone? Well, this cell here is a very unhappy cell because there's no nourishment there. But this cell here is a very happy cell because he's got that nourishment. Now, when some people who cannot handle gluten eat the wheat, it breaks down to glutamorphine. And people that can handle dairy, it breaks down to caseomorphine. What's morphine? It's an opiate derivative. So let's have a look at this. This is gluto, there's the morphine. This is caseo, there's the morphine. So let's say gluto and caseomorphine come along here. And they come through and into here, and this healthy cell knocks off the morphine, so only gluto and casein get through. But let's say glutamorphine and caseomorphine come here. That unhealthy cell who's not getting nourishment from the gut flora, it can't knock off the morphine. So glutamorphine and caseomorphine get into the blood. And the blood takes them up to the brain, and the opiate receptor sites on the brain pick them up. And that's why there are authors today, doctors, who are claiming, and they have got decades of clinical practice up their sleeve, that wheat and dairy products are contributing to mental illness. But can you see the problem? Part of the problem is the changing of the dairy and the wheat, but the other part of the problem is the loss of proper gut flora. There's a book called Grain Brain by Dr. David Pertmuller. There's another book called Gut and Psychology by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, and there are 2 other books. One's called Stop Autism Now, one's called Stop Alzheimer's Now. All of those books explain the process that I've just shown you there. So can you see that this protection here has been lost, so things are now getting into the blood that should not be there. And so God, in his infinite wisdom and mercy, he's put something else in there. It's called white blood cells. Have you heard of white blood cells? White blood cells are our internal army. So let's have a look at the white blood cells. There are neutrophils. And the neutrophils make up about 63%. And then you've got monocytes. You've got 5 different types, and they make up, I had it all worked out before, 13%. And then you've got lymphocytes, and these are the white blood cells that are made in your lymphatic system, in your lymph nodes. They make up 20%. And then you've got eosinophils. Do you remember the eosinophils I talked about in that story? And the eosinophils make up 2%, and the basophils, they make up 2%. Yep, I'm right, it's 100%. So your neutrophils, they make up most of the white blood cells. And your monocytes make up 13%. Your lymphocytes, they're the scouts. They're the ones that are floating around the body looking for anything like this, looking for any bacteria or yeast that might have slipped into the blood because of the lack of protection there. And as soon as they find them, they give messages to these two that come along and cover them and consume them. Now, when they find bacteria and they cover it and consume it, then they die. That's called pus. So when you have a wound that's got pus on it, it's the white blood cells doing a really good job. When I was a nurse and I got a bronchitis and I would cough up yellow lumps, you know what I'd think? I've got an infection. I better go to the doctor and get antibiotics. A germ has made me sick. Do you know, it's an erroneous theory. As Professor Antoine Bouchon stated, diseases are born innocent of us. Do you know why I got bronchitis? Because I was a nurse that partied late, didn't drink enough water, wasn't eating good food. There's a bit of damage being done in my lungs, so my white blood cells are coming off to clean it up. I take an antibiotic, kills off my system that's trying to clean it up. Can you see that? So the white blood cells are doing their jobs. Do you know they lay down their life for you? Now, if someone has an allergy to wheat and dairy, and these glutamorphines and caseomorphines appear in the blood, the eosinophils increase. So when you get an increase of these in the blood, you get an increase of eosinophils. Do you remember what I said to that man? The reason why you have got too many eosinophils is because you've got an allergy. An allergy, and the two most common allergens are wheat and dairy. I've seen it many, many times. When a person stops the wheat and dairy, then their white blood cells come back down under control. So this is your internal army. This is your immune system. And your gut flora has a huge amount to do with building up a proper immune system. That's why if a child doesn't get the mother's colostrum and a child is vaccinated, and the vaccines also harm the gut flora, that child is usually very prone to sickness, very prone to allergies. I've had several mothers contact me with babies with eczema. If the babies have eczema, it's either because they're on cow's milk or the mother is drinking milk and eating wheat. So if the baby's on cow's milk, I suggest that they put the baby on goat's milk, and usually it clears up. Or I suggest that the mother stop eating the wheat and the dairy. And almost to the day, at 2 months, they ring me back, the baby's clear. We had a guy come from Saudi Arabia. He had cortisone-induced eczema. Now, if someone's got eczema, what are they given? Cortisone cream. And he'd had it, he was 40, he'd had it since he was a child. And it got to the point now that it was actually causing his eczema, but he couldn't live without the cortisone. And he found a website, cortisone-induced eczema, and the German doctor resides over it. He was telling me about it. So what he did was he contacted them, and the German doctor said, there's only one way out of this, you've got to stop the cortisone. You're going to go through sheer hell. You see, cortisone just stops your body reacting. It just stops the inflammation. He said you're going to go through sheer hell for maybe 3 or 6 months, but after that, everything will start settling down because your body's going to realise the drugs aren't coming anymore. So by the time he came to us, he had gone through the horrors, and he had little patches of eczema on his arm, little red bits. The back of his neck was like crocodile skin. But he said, this is much better than I was. And as I went through the initial consultation, I realised he had quite a major gluten and dairy intolerance. He also, living in Saudi Arabia, they've built huge housing complexes in the desert, and they're all air conditioned. And it's not uncommon for mold to develop in the air conditioning. And the wife said to me, do you know that the filters on the air conditioning unit, she said, you're supposed to change them every 3 months. She said, I change it every week. It just gets full of dirt. So can you see he's breathing in bad air as well? He was with us for 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, he said to me, I'm a little disappointed that my eczema is not much different than when I came. And I smiled, I said, yep, it's going to take 2 months for the effect of the wheat and the dairy to get out of your body. To the day, 6 weeks later, so he's with us for 2 weeks, so 6 weeks later, he emailed me, he said, I'm totally clear of eczema. He came back 1 year later and his skin was as mine. And the whole time they were there, they couldn't stop smiling. He said to me, my specialist told me I would never be free of this. And he said, and I'm totally free. And he said, my specialist's children have eczema. Because all medicine has got is drugs. That's all they've got. If you find a doctor who talks about you changing your diet, who talks about herbs, he's actually done his own research, because he will not learn that in medicine. So can you see that if your white blood cells arise, there is a reason. One of the most common reasons is allergy. So how can we boost our immune system? How can we be assured that it's running well? Well, we need to make sure the air we're breathing is pure air. We need to make sure we're having some sunshine every day. We need to make sure we're not taking anything into our body that will harm it. And do you know what will kill this off? Probably the most effective at killing off white blood cells is refined sugar. In his book, Proof Positive, Dr. Neil Nedley, he's actually got how many white blood cells are killed with each teaspoon of sugar. So refined sugar. The other thing that wipes them out is alcohol. Alcohol has a huge amount of sugar in it. So they must go. Refined sugar is the worst. So there are some things that should not go into your body if you're looking for optimum performance. So we go to the next law, and that is rest. The hours of power, the hours between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. are when your body's recharged, your white blood cells get a boost. Do you remember the old saying, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy and wise? Let's go to the next law, is exercise. When you exercise, it stimulates the bone marrow to make more red and white blood cells. And especially if you're rebounding, it stimulates your lymphatic system. You stimulate your lymphatic system, you're going to make more lymphocytes. So exercise is vital in maintaining a proper immune system. Proper diet. Do you remember what our proper diet must contain? It must contain high fibre. And the highest fibre foods are your vegetables. Generous amounts of protein. Your legumes, your nuts and your seeds are the best, and healthy fats. And your healthy fats are found in your nuts and your seeds, your coconut oils, your olive oils. These foods have all the ingredients that you need, all the nutrition that you need to ensure healthy white blood cells. The next law is use of water. Do you know that there are some water treatments that you can use that will boost your white blood cells? And that is the hot and cold treatments. What the hot and cold treatments do is the reaction of the hot and the cold on the skin of the body stimulate the whole body. At Misty Mountain Health Retreat, we have a steam sauna down by the creek. And the steam sauna down by the creek, you go in there and you get all hot and then dive into the cool mountain stream, and that reaction of the hot and the cold boosts your immune system. Just even having quick cold showers is a boost of your immune system. In fact, the best way to prevent winter colds and flus, but I suppose you don't even have winter, unless you walk into a very cold air-conditioned room. Do you know, cool air will not do what cool water will do. The best way is to make sure you're breathing fresh air, and that is something to be mindful of in your climate, is that you are having that fresh air. The best way is to make sure you're eating some raw food every meal, and also to have a cold shower. Or if you have a hot shower, finish always with a cold. What the cold does is it equalizes circulation and it prevents chilling, and it's giving your white blood cells a boost. The last law is trust in divine power. Do you know, the research is showing today that when we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we're fearful, it can inhibit the work of your white blood cells. You've heard of endorphins? Endorphins are stimulated when you laugh. And when you laugh, your whole body relaxes. And that can even have an effect to ensure that your white blood cells are working well. What has God said in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7? He says, I've not given you the spirit of fear. Well, if he hasn't given us the spirit of fear, who has? It's that roaring lion who's throwing the fiery darts at us. God said, I have not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. A sound mind is a mind who is using the frontal lobe to make the decisions. Is that right? I remember once I was giving a meeting at a homeschool camp, and the title of my meeting was The Mother, the Nurse. And there are a whole lot of mothers there with the homeschool camp. And my son Peter, about 3 days before the camp, he was starting the generator and it flipped him and he went over and scraped his shin on the star posts. And when I think we've lost our voice. It's mucking up a bit, isn't it?
Check, check, check. Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, yes. So when he scraped his shin on the star post, it left quite a nasty graze. So I said to Peter, Peter, I'm giving a meeting on the weekend. It's in 3 days. I said, let's just do nothing to your leg. Let's just let it get really bad. We won't wash it. We won't do anything to it. We're going to get really, really bad, and then it's going to look really good for the demo. Now, boys love their scars. They're proud of their scars. And he's going, yeah, righto, Mum. Yep, yep. Anyway, the morning of the meeting, it was all swollen up, and it had a little bubble of, you know, pussy stuff coming out. He said, look, Mum, and it was all red around the edges. I said, fantastic, that's going to look really good for the meeting. And remember, boys love their scars. Anyway, 10 minutes before the meeting, Peter comes running in. He said, oh, sorry, Mum, I was climbing a tree and I scraped it. And he scraped it, and blood and pus went everywhere, and I said, great, it's looking really, really good. That's what we want for the meeting. I wanted to show the mothers that even then there is no need to worry, there is no need to fear. So what did I do? I just cleaned it up and put a bit of hydrogen peroxide on it, and if it's a bit swollen, we put some grated potato on it. Do you know, at any stage, there's always something that you can do. See, what you've got to take it to is, what's the worst thing that can happen? And how many people run to the doctor because of fear? But God says, I've not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Do you know, I believe that most people vaccinate their children because of fear. They're told that their baby will die. They're told their baby will sick and get died. Do you know they don't get sick and die? They actually do get sick and die when they're vaccinated, though. Do you know, the figures are like this. 1 child every 3 years in Australia dies from whooping cough. Hundreds die every year from the vaccine. But that's not in the newspaper, is it? And that's why God says we need to investigate. And if every mother, father, said to the doctor, we'll vaccinate our baby if you sign this piece of paper saying that our baby will not be harmed by the vaccine. They will not do that. And if every parent had a good look at what's in the vaccine, there are neurotoxins in there, there's aluminium, there's formaldehyde. When the baby's injected, they're injected with formaldehyde. That's why Ellen White says in page 127 of the Ministry of Healing, the only hope of better things is the education of the people in right principles. Do you know, it's really bad in Australia at the moment. The government have issued a law in January that no child care is allowed to take a non-vaccinated child. And if they do, they get a $10,000 fine. About 2 years ago, they stopped all childcare subsidy to parents that won't vaccinate, and they've taken away half of their family allowance. This is so bad that my husband has started his own political party. It's called the Involuntary Medication Objectors Party. And he wants, hopefully, he wants to be voted into the Senate, and if he is, he wants to start a royal commission into the thousands of parents who state that their babies were perfectly normal till vaccination. I don't know whether it happened, but you know, someone has to make a stand, don't they? Do you know, this is one of the biggest onslaughts to children's immune systems today, is this vaccine. Vaccine is an onslaught on an immature immune system. And the fact is, if you were to look at the vaccinated children, they are the ones that are getting sick because their immune system is struggling. So you can do much to boost your immune system by keeping those 8 laws of health. But just before I end, I'll tell you what happened to my son William when he got a fish hook in his finger. couldn't get it out. So I took him to the doctor, who put local anaesthetic in, did a little cut and pulled the fish hook out and bound it up. And we're just walking out and the doctor says, is he up to date on his vaccines? What are you going to say? Do you know you have to be careful what you say? Because they think you're not doing the right. They can make a child a ward of the state. I said, William has been vaccinated naturally. I'm a nurse. I'm a natural therapist. So if I'm at all concerned, I'll give you a ring. And then you smile very nicely, take the child's hand and leave very quickly. And there's a whole waiting room of people out there waiting to see him. What do I mean by vaccinated naturally? William lives where there's lots of fresh air. He's running in the sunshine every day. I don't give him any sugar, caffeine or anything that will harm him. He goes to bed early every night. He's exercising. He's eating nourishing food. He gets water every day, and William knows that the great God of heaven loves him. There you are. He's vaccinated. So you can do much to ensure that your body is well vaccinated. Are there any questions before we close? Yes?
You mentioned quite a bit about the need for sunshine. Is there a guide as to how much exposure to sunshine?
How much exposure do we need? You know, it's very difficult to put a guide on this because depending on the colour of your skin, the darker the skin, the more sunshine you need. If you've got blue eyes and light skin, you need to be cautious of the sunshine. So the best sunshine is in the middle of the day. That's the strongest. But you can't endure much in the middle of the day. Well, that's good because you don't need much in the middle of the day. But we should have some light exposure every day, usually 10 minutes front, 10 minutes back. You'll know if you overdo it, your body will quickly tell you. You'll get burnt. When Michael and I have a holiday, which does happen sometimes, we had a holiday in Bali sometime last year, and I'd go down to the pool every morning and I'd lie in the sun and I'd look at my clock, 10 minutes on the front, 10 minutes on the back, and then I'd be under the umbrella. And I'd do it every afternoon, every morning and every afternoon. Within 3 days I had a very nice tan. I wanted to get a nice tan because we were going snorkeling. And when you're in the water you can particularly burn, because I never use sunscreen, because sunscreen has got a lot of chemicals in it. And our Great Barrier Reef is dying. You know why it's dying? Sunscreens. Sunscreens in the water is killing off our Great Barrier Reef. 50 years ago you could look at the coral from the shore, now you have to go 5 kilometres out. My son was on a boat going out to the Great Barrier Reef a few months ago and he was talking to the driver. And the driver said, it's the sunscreens. It's the sunscreens that are killing our Great Barrier Reef. So if you're not used to sun, start little by little. You don't need much, and then slowly build up to it. Yes?
So what is the best sunscreen? You don't need it?
What is the best sunscreen? A shirt. And a hat. Really, you just got to cover that skin. Yes? Too much sun will cause brown spots. Do you know, it's really got more to do with what you're eating. And some people that are prone to freckles will get lots of freckles in the sun. That's why you're the guide. I have a lot of sun, but I don't get brown spots. I don't know. Yes?
There's a recent research done that we should not drink lemon water in the day if you are going to the sun. If
Why?
you drink lemon water in the day, go to the sun, you will have more freckles.
That's one that I'll put on the shelf. It doesn't make much sense to me, but I'll investigate. Yeah?
Nowadays, a lot of people take a lot of probiotics. And then one of my friends was asking, they have what, dairy-free probiotics?
Dairy-free probiotics are the best. I don't take probiotics every day, but it's not a bad idea to go on a month's course every year. If you've been on antibiotics, you need to be on probiotics for about 3 months to help make up for the damage done by the antibiotics. The best time to take probiotics is 3/4 of an hour before breakfast, because you want it to go down to your colon.
How long gets 3 hours?
No, about an hour before breakfast.
What is this probiotic thing?
It's Lactobacillus acidophilus bifidus bacterium. It's the healthy bacteria.
Can you make your own? Because a friend of mine makes her own using rice.
Yeah, sauerkraut has it, miso has it, you know, your kefir things have it. There are a few foods that make their own. Yes? If you need moisturiser, your coconut oil's the best. But a lot of people get dry skin that don't eat enough fat in their diet. But it is true that some people have drier skin than others, and they might need some coconut oil on. Yes?
Is it safe to drink lemon every day?
Yes, especially if you get lemon straight off a tree. It's very high in vitamin C. A good time to drink lemon is in water before breakfast, because it helps to cleanse that liver early in the morning. It's one of your best liver tonics is lemon.
How much do you have to drink?
Not much. If lemons are $1 a lemon, I don't drink them. But if my lemon tree's got a lot of lemons on it, I'll have some lemon every morning. So you play with it. And I know when I go home, my lemons will be ready to eat. Yes? Doesn't matter, warm water or plain water.
You advocate yogurt for your...
Yogurt, we do serve a yogurt, and the yogurt we make is a kefir yogurt, and we make it out of soy milk, organic soy milk. But when I was in New Zealand recently, we had some coconut yogurt. That's very, very nice, the coconut yogurt.
Dairy yogurt?
Daily, yeah.
Dairy.
Well, for dairy yogurt, you'd have to address the cows that the yogurt is coming from.
So can we make our own yogurt and soy?
Yeah, you can make your own yogurt with soy or coconut. That is true. The cultured foods are great foods for the colon. Well, shall we close to pray? Pray to close. Father in heaven, thank you so much for showing us even more about this amazing piece of machinery that we live in, so that we are better able to present our bodies living sacrifice. And we thank you that by your grace we can do this, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.